Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're turning our attention to the energy sector and some of Jamaica's exciting developments. Jamaica is making notable advances in renewables, grid resilience, and energy policy. Let's dive in.
First, a quick snapshot of where Jamaica stands today. The energy sector has historically been heavily reliant on fossil fuels, imported petroleum-based fuels in particular. According to the International Energy Agency, IEA, oil accounted for around 69% of Jamaica's total energy supply in 2022.
In terms of generation, Jamaica's installed generation capacity in 2023 was about 1,042 megawatts, of which roughly 882 megawatts was from thermal, fossil plants. On the renewable side, the data show that Jamaica's renewable power capacity is about 0.27 million kilowatts, i.e. 270 megawatts, as of 2023. So we see large dependence on imported fossil fuels, relatively modest renewables share, but a lot of headroom to grow. Now, ambition. In 2018, Jamaica set a goal of having 50% of its electricity generated from renewable sources by 2030, approximately 520 megawatts, under the target announced by then government. The IEA, for context, noted earlier a goal of 20% renewables by 2030 under a 2010 policy. In short, the target has been upgraded to 50% by 2030. That's a major shift, signaling the government sees renewables as central.
Let's look at what's actually happening on the ground.
1. The Strengthening Energy Sector Resilience in Jamaica, SESR-Jamaica program, led by the Cadmus Group and supported by USAID, ran from January 2021 to June 2024. It mobilized over $5.4 million in private investment to install approximately 2.4 megawatts of solar PV and 2.4 megawatt hours of storage capacity. 2. In terms of utility-scale renewables, the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, reports that the Wigton Wind Farm Limited has 62 megawatts of installed wind capacity, and BMR Energy has 36 megawatts of wind capacity. 3. According to Jamaica's press service, in May 2025, the government announced that 220 megawatts of additional renewable capacity is expected to go to market in 2025 and come online in the 2027/2028 financial year. 4. One media article notes that solar and wind-powered producers claimed to contribute approximately 20% of generation during a storm period. What this shows is that Jamaica is not just talking. Projects are being deployed. However, the scale still needs to grow to meet the target. Progress like this doesn't happen without enabling policy and regulatory change. Some key enablers in Jamaica include: the government has published requests for proposals, RFPs, for up to 500 megawatts of renewable energy projects, solar, wind, biomass, to help hit the 2030 target. The Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, MSETT, publishes energy balance statistics and data which provide transparency and planning visibility. There is a focus on grid resilience and storage to support more variable renewables, as seen in the SESR program. This policy infrastructure is essential, but Jamaica will need to continue upgrading its grid, shaping financing frameworks, and attracting private investment to scale up. Of course, all is not perfect. There are challenges that Jamaica must navigate. One analysis notes that, as of 2023, only about 12% of total energy generation was from renewables. Another commentary highlights that Jamaica has been adding solar panels and wind turbines without the storage and grid upgrades needed to make them reliable. It's like building a car but forgetting the brakes. The integration of variable renewables into the island grid, with its existing infrastructure, remains a technical, regulatory, and financial obstacle. Financing large-scale renewables and storage is still more expensive on island grids than in large continental systems. So while the ambition is high and progress is real, the path is not without hurdles. Why is all this important? For Jamaica, the benefits are multifold. Energy security. By reducing dependence on imported fossil fuels, Jamaica can improve its external balance and reduce vulnerability to fuel price shocks. Recall heavy reliance on oil. Cost savings. Renewables, once installed, can deliver electricity at lower marginal cost and reduce fuel import bills. Climate resilience. As a small island developing state, SIDS, Jamaica is vulnerable to climate change. A cleaner, more resilient energy system helps address that. Investment attraction. A visible move into renewables and storage attracts private capital, new jobs, and newer technologies, which in turn supports economic growth. In short, the energy transition is not just about green. It's about competitiveness, resilience, and future-proofing the economy.
So what should we keep an eye on in the coming years?
A few things. How much new renewable capacity is actually commissioned by 2027/28? Remember the 220 megawatt report. How grid upgrades and storage installations progress. Are bottlenecks resolved? Whether Jamaica hits milestones en route to the 50% by 2030 target, both in capacity and in actual generation. Investment flows. How much private capital comes in. How competitive the power procurement process becomes. Regulatory developments. Changes in tariffs, net billing, licensing, and how smoothly renewables tie into the utility grid. If these pieces move in tandem, then Jamaica could become a leading example for Caribbean renewable transitions.
Let's wrap up. Jamaica is clearly on a trajectory.
The goal of 50% renewables by 2030 is bold. There are concrete projects being rolled out, policy tools in place, and growing momentum. But there are still major challenges ahead: grid, storage, financing, execution. For viewers, if you're interested in following this story, keep an eye on the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport's updates, look for project announcements by JPS or IPPS, and monitor how the 2027/28 capacity targets unfold. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay notified on energy developments worldwide. See you next time.